This is what happens when you try to manipulate an INFJ. At first, nothing. No anger. No reaction. No confrontation. Just silence. And that silence is where everything begins. It may look like emptiness, like indifference, like they didn't notice. But they did. They always do. Because INFJs don't react the way you expect. They don't explode. They don't argue loudly. They don't try to win. They are not interested in surface battles. They are focused on deeper truths. They observe. Quietly. Carefully. Completely. They take in everything. The words. The tone. The timing. Even the energy behind what is being said. And while you think you are in control, they are already seeing through you. Not aggressively. Not judgmentally. But clearly. Every word. Every inconsistency. Every hidden intention. They notice when your story shifts. They notice when your tone changes. They notice when your actions don't match your words. They see it all. Not because they are looking for flaws, but because they are wired to understand. This is not guesswork. This is pattern recognition. A quiet, internal process. Always running in the background. Connecting dots. Filling in gaps. And once an INFJ sees the pattern, they cannot unsee it, even if they want to, even if they try to give you grace. The awareness stays. So if you are trying to manipulate an INFJ, what happens next may surprise you, because it does not look like a fight. It looks like stillness. Let's walk through it. 1. They notice immediately, not always consciously at first, but internally, something shifts. INFJs are known for emotional intelligence. But it goes deeper than that. It is not just empathy. It is perception. They don't just feel emotions. They read them. Like a language without words. Micro-expressions. Tone shifts. Pauses in speech. A slight hesitation. A forced smile. A sentence that feels rehearsed. They notice what you don't say. Just as much as what you do. Sometimes even more. Because silence speaks. Avoidance speaks. Inconsistency speaks. So when manipulation begins, they feel the shift instantly, not as a clear thought, but as a feeling. Something feels off. Something doesn't align. And they trust that feeling, even if they can't explain it yet. They don't ignore it. They don't push it away. They don't label it as overthinking. They stay with it. They observe it. They sit with the discomfort, because they have learned that this feeling matters. They don't dismiss it. They don't rationalize it away. They don't say, it's nothing. They lean into it. Gently. Curiously. Without panic. Because intuition is not a guess for them. It is a signal. A quiet alert system. Always scanning. Always processing. And when that signal activates, they start watching closely. Not in an obvious way, but internally. They slow down. They listen more carefully. They become more aware. And from that moment on, everything you do is being understood on a deeper level. 2. They give you the benefit of the doubt. This is where things become misunderstood. Because most people expect a reaction. Suspicion. Distance. Confrontation. But INFJs don't move like that. Here's what most people misunderstand. INFJs don't jump to conclusions. They don't assume the worst. Even when something feels wrong. They pause. They create space. Not distance from you, but space in their mind. They reflect. Quietly. Internally. Maybe I misunderstood. Maybe they didn't mean it. Maybe there is another explanation. They explore possibilities. They consider context. They think about your past behavior. Your intentions. Your struggles. They try to understand before they judge. And this is where many manipulators get comfortable. Because the INFJ does not react. They don't call it out. They don't expose it. They remain steady. Because the INFJ stays calm. Their tone doesn't change. Their energy stays soft. They stay kind. They stay respectful. They stay open. And this calmness can be misleading. It can look like acceptance. It can feel like permission. But it is neither. This is not weakness. This is evaluation. A quiet process of truth-seeking. They are gathering data. moment by moment, word by word, action by action, quietly, without announcing it, without making you aware. They don't need to prove anything. They just need to understand. And the more you try to manipulate, the more data they collect. Every attempt adds to the picture. Every inconsistency becomes a piece. And slowly, the image becomes clearer, even if they say nothing. 3. They start analyzing patterns. At this stage, the shift becomes deeper, more structured, more certain. One incident means little. Anyone can make a mistake. Anyone can say the wrong thing. INFJs understand that. They allow room for human error. 2 incidents raise a question. A subtle one. Not loud, not urgent, but present. Something to pay attention to. But patterns. Patterns tell the truth. Patterns remove excuses. Patterns remove coincidence. Patterns reveal intention. INFJs are masters of pattern recognition. Not because they try to be, but because their mind naturally connects. They connect dots across time. Not just today, but yesterday, last week, last month, across conversations, across behaviors. They remember how things felt. They remember what was said. They remember what didn't match. They remember how you made them feel. Not just emotionally, but intuitively. They remember inconsistencies. Small ones. Subtle ones. The kind most people ignore. And slowly, a clear picture forms. Not rushed. Not forced. But undeniable. A pattern of behavior. A rhythm that repeats. A truth that becomes visible. Not based on emotion. Not based on one moment. But based on repeated evidence. Layered over time. Seen from multiple angles. And once the pattern is clear, everything changes. Not suddenly. Not dramatically. But deeply. Because now, they are no longer wondering. They are understanding. And that understanding shifts how they see you. How they interact with you. How much of themselves they give to you. From this point forward, nothing is the same. 4. They emotionally detach. This is the turning point. Not anger. Not confrontation. Detachment. It does not arrive loudly. It arrives quietly. Almost invisible. At first, nothing seems different. They still respond. They still listen. They still show up. But something subtle begins to shift. A layer pulls back. They stop sharing the deeper parts of themselves. The thoughts they once trusted you with stay inside. The feelings they once expressed remain unspoken. They begin to filter everything. Carefully. Intentionally. Not out of fear, but out of awareness. They realize something important. Not everyone deserves access. Not everyone handles depth with care. So they become selective. They stop opening up the way they used to. Conversations become lighter, less personal, less revealing. You may still talk, but you no longer connect. They stop investing emotionally. Not all at once, but slowly, like a dimmer switch being turned down. Less energy, less effort, less emotional presence. You may not notice it right away, because on the surface, they still appear the same. Still polite, still kind, still calm, still respectful. But the emotional core is no longer there. And that changes everything. The depth is gone. The richness of connection fades. The unspoken understanding disappears. The warmth begins to fade. Not cold, not harsh, just distant. And this is intentional. INFJs do not detach by accident. They detach with awareness. Because they understand their own limits. They understand their own energy. And they protect it. Quietly. Without explanation. Without drama. Once they feel manipulated, something inside them closes. Not completely, but enough. Enough to create distance. Enough to restore balance. Enough to protect themselves. They begin to withdraw their energy. From conversations. From emotional investment. From the connection itself. And once that withdrawal begins, it rarely reverses. Because for an INFJ, detachment is not temporary. It is a signal. A signal that something has changed. And once it changes, they do not ignore it. They follow it. 5. They stop reacting. Manipulation thrives on reaction. It feeds on emotion. Strong responses, visible discomfort, confusion, defensiveness. These are the tools manipulators rely on. But INFJs understand something important. Reaction gives power. So they remove it completely. They stop feeding the situation. They stop giving emotional responses. No visible frustration. No defensive explanations. No emotional spikes. They become neutral, balanced, centered, almost unreadable. And this can feel unsettling. Because where there was once warmth, there is now stillness. Where there was once engagement, there is now distance. You push. They don't push back. They don't argue. They don't escalate. They don't try to prove anything. They simply remain calm. You provoke. They do not react. No irritation. No visible discomfort. Just quiet composure. You expect drama. You get silence. Not avoidance. Not weakness. Silence. Intentional silence. And this changes the entire dynamic. Because manipulation needs movement. It needs reaction. It needs energy. Without that, it begins to fail. And that failure creates frustration for the person trying to control the situation. Because the usual strategies stop working. There is no emotional hook. No leverage. No way to steer the outcome. Just stillness. And that stillness is powerful. It creates space. It breaks patterns. It disrupts control. The manipulator begins to feel it. The loss of influence. The loss of response. The loss of power. And slowly, the manipulation begins to collapse. Not through conflict, but through absence. The absence of reaction. The absence of engagement. The absence of emotional fuel. And in that absence, the truth becomes visible. 6. They set quiet boundaries. INFJs do not always announce their boundaries. They do not always explain them. They do not always make them obvious. Instead, they shift. Subtly. Deliberately. They change how they show up. They limit access. Not dramatically, but consistently. Less availability. Less time. Less openness. They begin to choose when to engage. And when not to. They reduce unnecessary interaction. They step back from draining conversations. They avoid topics that feel manipulative. They stop explaining themselves. They stop over-justifying. They stop trying to be understood by someone who is not listening. They say no, calmly, simply, without long explanations, without emotional weight. And this kind of boundary can be confusing, because it is not loud. It is not aggressive. It does not demand attention. But it is firm, very firm, even if it looks gentle, even if it sounds soft. Because strength does not always look strong. Sometimes it looks quiet. Sometimes it looks like distance. Sometimes it looks like a simple no. And INFJs understand this deeply. They understand that boundaries are not about control. They are about protection. Protection of energy. Protection of peace. Protection of self. And once they set a boundary, they hold it. Not rigidly, but consistently. They do not keep explaining it. They do not keep defending it. They simply live it. And over time, that boundary becomes clear, even without words. Because behavior speaks. Consistency speaks. And INFJs rely on that. Because once they decide, they rarely go back. Not out of stubbornness, but out of clarity. 7. They observe your reaction to boundaries. This part is critical. This is where everything becomes clear. INFJs pay close attention, not to what you say, but to how you respond. They watch quietly. They listen carefully. They notice patterns. Do you respect the boundary? Do you accept it? Do you adjust your behavior? Or do you resist it? Do you question it? Do you try to push past it? Do you test it? Do you ignore it? Every reaction matters. Every response reveals something. Because boundaries expose intention. Healthy people understand limits. They may not always like them, but they respect them. They adjust. They communicate. They stay grounded. Manipulators respond differently. They push. They challenge. They try to bend the boundary. They look for loopholes. They create pressure. Subtle or direct. They try to regain control. And INFJs notice this immediately. They do not argue. They do not confront right away. They observe. They let the behavior speak. Because behavior does not lie. And when resistance appears, they do not feel confused. They feel clear. Clear about the intention. Clear about the pattern. Clear about the person. And this clarity is powerful. Because it removes doubt. It removes second guessing. It removes hesitation. They no longer wonder what is happening. They understand it fully. And once understanding is complete, the next step becomes easier. Not emotional. Not reactive. Just clear. 8. They stop trying to fix you. INFJs are natural helpers. They are drawn to understanding, drawn to healing, drawn to growth. They see potential in people, even when others do not. They believe in change. They believe in depth. They believe in transformation. So when something feels off, their first instinct is to help, to understand, to support, to guide. But manipulation changes that. It shifts everything. Because manipulation is not confusion. It is intention. And once an INFJ recognizes that, they step back. Not in anger. Not in disappointment. But in awareness. They realize something important. Not everything can be fixed. Not everyone wants to change. Not every situation is theirs to carry. So they stop. They stop explaining. They stop repeating themselves. They stop offering insight to someone who is not open to it. They stop overextending. They stop giving more than they receive. They stop trying to repair something that continues to break. And this is not easy, because helping is part of who they are. But self-respect becomes stronger. Stronger than the urge to fix. Stronger than the desire to understand. Stronger than the hope for change. They begin to redirect their energy away from the situation, back to themselves. And this is a powerful shift. Because energy is everything. Where it goes, attention follows. Where attention goes, connection grows. But now, that energy is no longer available, no longer accessible, no longer given freely. And without that energy, manipulation loses its foundation. There is nothing left to control, nothing left to influence, nothing left to take. And that is when the dynamic truly ends. Quietly, naturally, completely. 9. They create distance. Not always physically, but emotionally, mentally, energetically. It begins in very subtle ways, almost invisible at first. They stop leaning in. They stop reaching out first. They stop filling the silence. Conversations become shorter, more functional, less personal, less revealing. They answer, but they do not expand. They listen, but they do not engage deeply. Interactions become lighter, surface level, polite, controlled. There is kindness, but no vulnerability. There is presence, but no closeness. Depth disappears, slowly, quietly, almost like a dim light fading. What once felt rich, now feels minimal. What once felt safe, now feels distant. And the connection starts to dissolve, not in one moment, but over time. Like something gently drifting away. This is not impulsive. There is no sudden decision. No emotional outburst. No dramatic shift. This is deliberate, measured, intentional. INFJs don't cut people off quickly. They take time. They observe. They reflect. They weigh everything internally. But when they do create distance, it is usually permanent. Because by that point, they have already tried. Already understood, already processed. And what remains is acceptance, quiet acceptance, that the connection can no longer continue. 10. They see you clearly, not the version you present, not the version you explain, but the version revealed through patterns. No illusions, no filters, no softened edges, no excuses. They no longer reinterpret your behavior. They no longer search for hidden goodness behind repeated harm. No justifications. No rationalizing. No rewriting of events. just clarity. Sharp, grounded, unavoidable clarity. They understand your patterns. Not just what you do, but when you do it, why you do it, how it repeats. They see the cycle, the triggers, the outcomes. They understand your intentions. Even the ones you don't say out loud. Even the ones you try to hide. They understand your motivations. What drives you, what you gain, what you avoid. And once they see you clearly, something shifts permanently. They stop trying to change the narrative. They stop hoping for a different version of you. They stop waiting for inconsistency to become growth. They accept what is, not what could be. They accept the truth, even if it contradicts everything they once believed. Even if it breaks the emotional bond they once valued. Even if it hurts. Because truth is more important than comfort. And once truth is fully seen, it cannot be unseen. 11. They perform the INFJ door slam. Quiet, decisive, final. This is often misunderstood. From the outside, it can feel sudden, unexpected, cold. But internally, it is the result of a long process. A long evaluation. A long series of chances. It is not revenge. There is no desire to hurt you back. No need to prove a point. It is not punishment. They are not trying to teach you a lesson, or make you feel what they felt. It is protection. Pure protection. Of their peace. Of their energy. Of their inner world. The INFJ door slam happens when all trust is gone. Not damaged. Not weakened. Gone. When all efforts have been exhausted. Every conversation. Every attempt to understand. Every moment of patience. Used. Spent. When the pattern is undeniable. No more questions. No more confusion. No more doubt. And at that point, they close the door. Completely. Not halfway. Not temporarily. Fully. No explanation needed. Because they have already explained. Many times before. No dramatic goodbye. No final argument. No emotional scene. Just silence. A silence that speaks clearly. A silence that holds finality. Permanent silence. They remove access. Not out of anger, but out of necessity. Emotionally, they no longer feel connected. Mentally, they no longer think about engaging. Sometimes physically, they remove presence entirely. And once that door is closed, it rarely reopens. Because reopening it would mean ignoring everything they learned. And INFJs do not forget lessons that cost them peace. 12. They move on, quietly. No announcement. No explanation to the world. No need for validation. No need to be understood. No revenge. They do not circle back. They do not create conflict. They do not seek closure through confrontation. No chaos. No disruption. Just quiet movement forward. Steady. Grounded. Intentional. They process everything internally. In silence. In reflection. In deep thought. They revisit moments. They connect meaning. They understand what happened. They reflect. Not to dwell, but to learn. To refine. To grow. They grow. Stronger boundaries. Clearer perception. Deeper self-trust. They learn what to accept, what to avoid, what to recognize sooner. And they become even more aware. More tuned in. More precise. More intuitive. Their inner voice becomes sharper. More reliable. More trusted. More selective. With people. With energy. With emotional investment. Because every experience refines them. Shapes them. Strengthens their awareness. And the next time, they see manipulation even faster. Earlier. Clearer. Without hesitation. Now here is the part most people don't realize. INFJs don't hate manipulators. They don't carry resentment endlessly. They don't replay anger. They don't obsess over them. No constant thinking. No emotional fixation. No desire to revisit the past. They don't seek to expose them. They don't need to prove anything. They don't need others to see what they saw. They simply remove them. Cleanly. Quietly. Completely. From their space. From their daily life. From their inner world. From their energy. They stop giving attention. They stop giving thought. They stop giving access from their life. Without noise. Without announcement. Without return. And that is what makes them so powerful. Not force. Not control. But clarity. And discipline. Because they don't fight manipulation. They don't engage in endless battles. They don't try to win. They outgrow it. They step beyond it. They leave it behind. So if someone tries to manipulate an INFJ, they may feel like nothing is happening. No confrontation. No raised voice. No visible reaction. No drama. No chaos. No resistance. But behind that calm exterior, something is unfolding. Quietly. Precisely. A decision is forming. Not rushed. Not emotional. But certain. A quiet decision. Built on observation. Built on truth. Built on clarity. And once it is made, there is no going back.